Use one word. But we're live. That's all good.
We're live.
All
We're up. We're running.
And today it's Friday.
It is Friday.
On Fridays, on TV, we get to hear Scott give us his wisdom on how to sell utilizing our funnels.
That's
both
right.
In them and outside of them.
That's right. And I said yesterday we would talk on communication. How does that sound?
You said communication.
That's right. On communications. On the communication model. Oh, we're getting Sean G. Murphy from Costa Rica coming in. All the way, hugs from Costa Rica. Very nice. That's one of two things. Either he just got up or he's not been asleep yet. It's one of those. Because he's down in Costa Rica training. No, I mean, he's training. He's not. He's down working working with some great people down there. I said that, I thought it'd be a interesting time to look at the communication model. And the fact is, we talked a little bit earlier this week about the difference between millennials and boomers and some of the great changes in the brain and all sorts of different things that are happening. Well, that's really a big part of the communication modifications that are going on these days. And a big part of it is because of these things. Again, not only has it changed where we store our knowledge and what we do that way, but it also has to do with the style with which we communicate. And have you noticed that communications are not generally as clear as they once were?
Now say that again?
Well, that they're not as clear. There's more misunderstandings over simple communication than there used to be. At least that's my observation. That there are more misunderstandings taking place. Well, part of that, I think, is because of what we'll discuss here today on the communication side.
Part of it.
What's that? Well, part of the communication.
What is the end game? What are people going to get out of it?
What are people going to get out of this today? They're going to have a much greater understanding of the importance of communications and total communications. We're caught in a so there was a study done at UCLA by Dr. Albert Maharavan back in 1977. I know it was some time ago, but what he found before many people who will watch this were born, that's why it's still valid, is he was studying nonverbal interpersonal communications. And it's really become the standard study, the go-to study that speakers and trainers and authors and everybody tends to use. And while, number one, it's happened some time ago, but number two, there have been so many changes in our communication process, it's still tremendously valid. And while the numbers might be modified somewhat, they're not, it's actually extremely telling. It's like a universal truth. Once you hear these numbers and you hear, the results of the numbers. So what he found was that 7% of the communication is the words themselves. 38% of the communication is the tone.
That part cut out. So let's make sure we repeat that.
7% of the communications is the words itself.
Only 7. So I did hear that right.
Only 7. 38.
Wow.
This is why this is really important for what we're talking about with digital marketing. 38% is the tonality with which the words are delivered. And 55% is the physiology behind the tonality with which the words are delivered. So it's the physicality, it's the gesturing, it's the facial expressions, it's the things like that. It's beyond nonverbal. It's physical. So I mean, just to make sure that this is right. So let me give you a quick example.
I put nonverbal because I can't spell physiology.
Then put physical.
I think I got it.
Okay. So let me give you an example. Hi. 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 Now it was the exact same word. It was the exact same word 3 times, but the messaging and the communication becomes significantly different because of pairing all together. So let's explore each one of them, and you'll understand why it's so important. So that's why when we're working on copy and you might say a certain word, why I'm listening so closely to that word, because words have power. Words are tremendously powerful. And even though only 7% of the communication is the words, they still exist. So typically think what most people do. Most people wordsmith everything, meaning that they absolutely learn the words. They might learn a script, but it's not the script. It's not the words. It's the delivery of those words that are really important as well. So, wow, you're not even pixelated. That's awesome. You've come back.
I was on the wrong internet.
Well, you've come back unpixelated. That's great. So anyway, again, it's not, words are tremendously important. So as an example, one of the ways that I prove that point when I'm training live is I'll suggest that because of these and because of texting, we don't even use complete words, correct?
Yeah,
that's exactly it. It's like, yeah, you can't add 2 more letters to spell you, you know?
I think the biggest difference between an old millennial and a younger millennial is, man, that just cracks our bones in half. It's like, really? 2 letters. You couldn't add 2 more letters? You just gotta go, you. No kidding. We had a 4-story townhome in uptown Dallas. We ended up selling it for about, I think we put it up for like $400,000. I'm sorry, we were buying it. We were buying it the very first time. Wrong one. We were buying it the first time. They wouldn't let it be shown with it just being my husband. And so we got, whatever realtor happened to be showing us the next time, because we weren't sure we were going to buy or not. And so we ended up with this one particular realtor, ended up being our realtor on this $400,000 deal. And the realtor who was listing it, I kid you not, she had to be like 60. And her emails, not even her text messages, but her emails to me were worse than my 12-year-old daughter. And that was one of the things she would do, would be put the letter U. On a $400,000 deal, that was her email. And it made us distrust not just her, and gave her no credibility. She almost lost the deal. I had to go above and beyond her, reach out through LinkedIn and hunt down emails of the actual owners to save the deal. But it made us not want to ever hire a realtor ever again. That's how bad that is.
Well, and that's the thing that many millennials don't recognize, because it's never been called to their awareness. And that's what a lot of times training is really about, calling to your awareness the possibility that something else exists. So with 7% of the communication being the words, what we tend to do is we tend to learn the words and we learn to what, but if we can't make those words dance, the words are irrelevant. And so that's why, again, when we're looking at headlines and doing some of these funnels and some of the things we're doing, I'm listening to the words you're saying, and there are some words that are tremendously powerful and some that are less powerful. Some are invigorating, some are victim language. And so we want to get away from victim language. These are specific words. We want to get away from victim language. We want to get into encouragement and going. And so that, because again, think about what we're working to do. We're working to communicate a process where people see the power behind things. So just an easy example on victim language becomes the speaking positively versus speaking negatively. I mean, or the anti-negative. The let me see if I can. When I was kicking footballs at Iowa, as opposed to "don't miss this right." Okay, that's a thing you could say because you want to make sure that you are kicking the ball through the uprights. Don't miss this right. Versus make sure you knock it down the center. You kick it down the center. One is one, we get what we focus on. So when we use the anti-negative, this is, gosh, this goes back to a book in the 70s called, yeah, nice, a book in the 70s called Psycho-Cybernetics, and basically taking and aligning, and as opposed to saying what you don't want, say what you want. And we've come in and again in our society, because we're so short in our communication so often, what happens is other people assign the anti-negative as opposed to the positive. So therefore be positive. So again, words are powerful. And one of the things I say when I'm training live is, let me give you an example of that. Sex education versus sex training. Words are powerful.
I think if you had two rooms at a conference and one had a sign that said sex education this way and one had a sign that said sex training this way, I'm going to take a lucky guess that one room is going to be packed and the other room will have a lot of empty chairs.
Right. And so, but okay, let me give you one of the other examples I use. You go to a Starbucks and somebody comes to the door and approximately the same time you do. Let's say a gentleman and a lady, you basically open the door and you allow the lady to enter first. She says, after she goes through, she says, because you've opened the door for her, response is,
thank you.
Exactly. What do most people say? What would the guy say that's holding the door?
You're welcome. Oh, no problem. That's the one that you get a lot.
Right. So the point is, many people say you're welcome, which is a totally appropriate response. But what you said was what many people say because they're not thinking about the quality of their communication. If I say no problem, there was no problem. I did something nice for you. I opened the door. I allowed you to walk through first. That was the honorable thing to do. But if you say thank you, I say no problem, who created the problem?
You did.
By saying no problem.
Oh, man.
But that's an example of word choice. Okay? So we tend to choose these words that are that create our own issues for us, or they demean what we could do. So, and you're welcome is a totally appropriate answer, but it doesn't differentiate you from anybody else doing a similar activity. So how would you differentiate yourself? How about it's an honor? or my pleasure. So again, if you ever drive through a Chick-fil-A and you get your meal, they are specifically trained. You will never hear "you're welcome." You will only hear "it's my pleasure." So that's a prime example how, while only 7% of the communication is the words we choose are tremendously valuable. They're tremendously important. And so you can up-level your communication. The quality of your life is the quality of your communication. And so that's what's being lost with a lot of millennials. And so, and again, part of it is because nobody's called it to their attention. I can, for the vast majority of millennials that I have these conversations with, that I bring this out, they're very thankful that I would be willing to share this piece of information with them. There's like, wow, I've never heard that before, but it makes sense. So again, I think part of the knocks against millennials is, part of it is our fault as the generations older than the millennials, because we haven't been we'd rather take the shot at the millennial as opposed to trying to serve the millennial. And I think if more Gen X and boomers would serve the millennials in a nice way, in a kind and gentle way. I'm not saying, hey, dummy, you don't know what's going on. Well, at one point we didn't know what was going on either. So the point is you have to invest. So
how is that never taught in school? I spent a lot of years in school, and the idea, so they taught us that, they taught us the 90-10, like 90% of communication is nonverbal. But on such a basic level, like, don't cross your arms like that. And I'm not even sure they teach that anymore.
They
because
don't.
It's not on a test.
They tend not to, which is why it's kind of like paisley shirts. This training's coming back into fashion. I mean, it's the.
To someone who's live here, anybody particular?
You might be in Costa Rica, but that's okay. No, it's all good. The point is that sharing, there's a reason common sense is common sense, is because it works. Unfortunately, common sense isn't so common because people stopped teaching common sense. They got frustrated and just said, hey, this stuff doesn't matter. So again, words are tremendously important, but you've got to align your words with your tonality and physiology. So again, the next portion is 38% of the communication is the tonality. Tonality is the inflection and the making the words dance. So, and you've got to have your words congruent with the tone that you deliver your words. So one of the examples I give often in training is I was teaching at a chiropractic college. And
different.
No, I do that a lot. I actually do. I train at 4 colleges a year, and 4 chiropractic colleges a year. But one of the first chiropractors who I ever went to said, "You've got a subluxation. You could die." It was like, holy crap, I've got this thing that I don't know what it is, and he's happy I have it. I mean, he's like excited that I could die because of it. I mean, because that was the tone. So the tone outpowered the words. The words were very serious, but the tone was like he was happy about it. And so when you're incongruent with your words and your tone, you've got a problem. So as an example, if you want to convey compassion, you just go lower. and slower. And if you want to convey and generate enthusiasm, you go higher and faster. But you've got to have your words matching your actions in this. So again, the words that he said to me were fine. But had he delivered it with, you've got a subluxation, you could die. Wow. Now all of a sudden it's powerful because the words and the delivery of those words matched. So again, a little hard to do on this live, but one of the things that I say is go ahead and stand up and bend over, let your arms droop to the floor, and then I want you to, all at once, we're going to yell, "Life is awesome." Or the converse is, I want you to stand in the Rocky pose with your arms straight up and just go, "Life sucks." See, your words and your physiology and your tonality are not matching. And so a lot of
Speaker Darren Martin even told me it's not even just about what you're communicating. It communicates it on a hormonal chemical level in your body.
Right.
So when
Absolutely.
you do something like super excited and your body is really open like this and you've got like Superman pose, that your testosterone actually increases, not significantly, like women aren't going to turn into men magically, but it's enough to get you going and feel more confident.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, when you like describe that to me, that brings to me his what communication does to yourself, his
Mm-hmm.
lessons there. So what you're saying is essentially when we're doing that, we're communicating messages to both outwardly people, but we're also communicating it to ourselves.
Absolutely.
So we're doing double damage if we're sucking.
Exactly. That's why words are so powerful. So again, the word "I am" is a command statement to your own subconscious, to your own brain. So if you make a mistake, "Oh, I'm such a moron," you're telling yourself to be a moron. Or I am so clumsy. You're telling yourself to be clumsy. Nobody is purposely clumsy. The point is, they have either other people have told them or they have told them. And again, it comes back into, I did this with Sean on a webinar the other night, and he said, "I've never heard you say that." I said, "I say it in virtually every talk, so I don't know how you haven't heard this, but it's not what anybody else says to you that counts. It's what you say to you after they stop talking. It's whether you have reinforced that communication." So therefore, that's why, and I pulled out this sheet, I am blessed, I am powerful, I am talented, I am, it's hard when reading it backwards. I am having difficulty reading it backwards. But that's not, see, that's one of those things that we say, as opposed to, I am infinitely powerful that I can read this backwards. My point is that we tend to not think of our own self-talk, because we're thinking 60,000 thoughts a day, but we're processing thousands and thousands of words a minute in our head. And how many times are we sending out which one? This is why there's no place for sarcasm, because sarcasm is actually a negative edict that you're throwing out. So again, this is why communication becomes so important. And while we think the only person hearing this is the other person, we're hearing everything we say all the time as well. That's why training and these opportunities to do double funnel TV are so valuable for you and I, because it allows us to hear us as well. Not only does the audience have the opportunity to hear us, but it allows us to hear us. And that then reinforces how I really am good at this KIVO thing, or the digital marketing strategies that I've put together are really powerful, right? And it's not from an ego place, it's from a support yourself place. And so communication is very important. That's why, again, tonality, a smile can be heard. The fact is,
It could
if you're,
definitely be heard.
yeah, if you're happy, tell your face, you know, I mean, actually have fun doing what you do.
It changes completely just on the phone. I can't say that would work for or against texting. I'm sure in some subconscious level it does, but if I'm on the phone and let's say I am just not in a good mood, I almost I turn into an actress. You turn around and go, you just smile before you pick up the phone because it makes a difference in how you sound.
Right. It's why actually emojis were created for this. Emojis were created because to convey tone. Because, and it's one thing that I suggest with everybody in their communications, read everything, read the words. Again, and that's why when you and I are working on a funnel, I'm hearing the words that you're typing, I'm watching the words you're typing, but I'm actually considering those words two ways. I'm considering them as I believe you intend them to be powerful, to project positivity, to be good, to be true, to be honest, to be all those kinds of good things. But then I go back and I read it and I listen to it as if you just kicked my dog, that I don't like you, that you're just trying to con me, that whatever. And the reason I read it that way is because if I can add those emotions to those words, so can somebody else. And this is why websites, why video and emoji usage has gone crazy, because we want all three parts of the communication. Do you understand? Video, you've been making a variety of different faces based on what I say, right? See? So the point is, but because of video, we can now see that. That's the physiology behind the communication.
Well, it's more like two people, and I think that's why like Zoom and webinars and things like Facebook Live, why they do so well is because even the younger, not even just the younger millennial, the generation, but what do they call the new ones? Like, oh,
I don't even know what the next one
well,
is.
I can't remember what they're called. They did name them finally, but they recognize where text is not enough.
Mm-hmm.
They know that, and they prefer to go. I mean, there's sometimes it'll just be, text messaging, but when they can, like my daughter almost always uses FaceTime to call my sister.
Yeah.
Always. She would rather FaceTime than sit there and text or even call.
Right. And that's the power of video. It's the power of video email if you have it. It's the power of having video on your websites. Because again, people sit there and say, why is this communication model important to understand? It's important to understand because it is the foundation of all communication. So if you're creating a funnel, your funnel now should incorporate all three levels of communication if it possibly can, right? So
Okay.
this is why we add video or we add pictures, because pictures, again, I can see now if I've got smiling people in the audience, that, wow, the speaker must be conveying something to the audience that brings happiness to them, even if it's a static picture, right? But if you had, if it was serious content that you were trying to promote to the audience, you would not have a picture of a smiling audience or laughing audience. You would have a, I'm right. You'd have them in a more stoic pose, because this speaker really gives you quality, detailed content. So again, think about as you're designing your funnels, your picture, the communication that the picture commands needs to be congruent with the messaging. So,
and that's why we want to put the after state and not the before state. So
correct.
People are more inclined to put an image of, oh, I'm saying, you know, how frustrating it is when you have this website, but it's not doing anything for you. It's not bringing in leads. It's not selling anything. Oh, you have the crying business owner begging their head against the desk.
Right.
But that's not putting people in the right state of mind. Whereas if you put somebody, what did we pick? Like the guy going, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's so again, it's the end result. It's the beauty. Nobody wants to build a house, but they want to have a picturesque scene. When we were working on Dwayne's, with the blocks, right? The house that was at the lake with the beautiful forest and the sea, right? You can now put yours. And this house is secure too. Oh, bonus, right? So again, why these three pieces of communication are so important and why understanding this is so important is this is not just in the spoken word. This is in everything we do. So 7% of the words are, of the communication are the words. That's why you can say, that's why sometimes you can have some outrageous headlines that then drive you to a picture or a video or this or that then take you to the right place because it's a more complete communication. But again, that's why I think the vast majority of website builders and digital marketers don't necessarily take all these components into consideration.
I think it's a lot.
Yeah.
Like I think it's one of those where it's like as a child, essentially a child is learning how to drive. I try to explain to my daughter, now that she's actually 18, so she's got 3 years of driving under her belt. And she would be like, Mom, why are you freaking out? I'm such a good driver. I'm like, I get that. But driving was only the first stage. Like there's things that I don't think about driving. You're over here worried about not hitting the curb. It's not even on my conscious mind when I'm driving not to hit the curb. I'm over here learning how to do something else because you learned this on stage one. So there's so many different layers to building the communication and across all platforms, if you will, whether it's verbal or a website or a video or a text message, that even when we're building a website, I'll build it under a basic framework, right? Let's get the technical information that we need to get in there first. And then when I do have more time and we're looking to optimize it, all right, let's go over it and let's layer a story brand over it. Let's make sure that this website tells a story. And then we might come over here and say, does it actually tell a brand visually? So I think it's one of those, it's just about layering, like the idea that you're magically, when you're first learning sales or marketing or doing anything, that the first iteration, it's just something that's got to be practiced 10,000 hours before you're a pro.
No doubt about it. Again, it goes from the unconscious incompetent to the conscious incompetent to the conscious competent to the unconscious competent, right? You want to go through all those stages. So it's the same way with your communication. Again, truly the quality of your life is the quality of your communication. If you can't speak with people, you've got a problem. And this is what I have shared with many audiences from the standpoint of you can do everything you can to prove me wrong in this, but it's not just me. It's years of study and very learned people sharing this information that in fact there are certain points of communication that are tremendously critical. It's why you can even go into neuro-linguistic programming, which is now command statements and all. I mean, communication can make you do things. You don't think you
Somebody,
can, you
yeah,
don't
we were
think
talking
it
about
can, but
that. What's the statement? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink.
it's not
And
true.
we tell ourselves all the time, and I was like, man, women have been making men do things since, this apple got eaten. He didn't want to eat that apple, but he ate the apple. And marketers for hundreds of years now have been making people buy things, do things they didn't even know they wanted to do. So
Well, so
I'm pretty sure we just say it because it makes us feel better.
well, but the point is, you made a statement that's not true. Many people believe it's true, but it's not true. The statement of you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. You can make them drink. How do you make them drink? Make them thirsty. You salt their oats.
You
If
salt their French fries
Yeah, you salt their French fries. I mean, you can make them drink.
in a
It's
bar. You put
it.
peanuts out.
That's exactly. You can make people drink. You can make people go to Starbucks and pay $5 for a $2 cup of coffee, right? You can do that.
It happens.
Well, but again, that's all marketing is influencing. That's all sales is really
Yeah.
is influencing, right? It's sharing the proper influences in such a way. So again, one of the ways that I found this, the importance of tonality and the importance of reading things two ways, was that a friend and I were working on a training deal. He had asked me if I'd come in and train, and we were trying to make it work, and it didn't work out for a variety of reasons. The company he was with, and he couldn't get some people to do certain things, whatever. And so I sent him an email and said, hey, sorry it didn't work out. Better luck to us next time. I really look forward to it. Thanks. It's a pretty nice email, right? I mean, short,
Right.
sweet. All of a sudden, I don't hear from him. I thought that's pretty weird. So I called him. I said, hey, buddy, did you get my email? I got your email. Well, you sound upset. I got your sarcastic email. I didn't send you a sarcastic email. Here, let me pull it up. Sorry it didn't work. I know we worked hard at it. Better luck to us next time. Thanks. I said, that wasn't my email. He goes, it's your words. It was my words, but it was his tone. See, something happened to him that he was in a not great mood. And so he applied his tone to my words.
How dare he?
And so, well, but that's what we have to recognize, is everybody is going to do that.
They
So
do.
when you allow just the written word to carry the communication, you stand a potential problem, because 93% of the communication, according to the study, falls on the receiver, on the recipient. And if the recipient had some negativity, or had some bad things, or had some whatever happen, okay? So this goes back to last week's lesson of people do business with those they know, like, and trust. Why do I want people to know and like me and trust me? Because then if I send a words only text, they see it's from Scott. Oh, this is from somebody I know, like, and trust. Let me put on my Scott tone. Scott isn't sarcastic. He doesn't fire bad things at me. He doesn't try to belittle me. He doesn't. So if he doesn't do that consistently, that he's not doing that in this message. Now let me read this message. This is how this all ties together. What most people don't recognize, I think, is it's not one single thing that makes or breaks you. It's the succession in the series of multiple things. And
All
so,
right, break that down again.
well, there's not any one thing that makes or breaks you. It's an accumulation of all the different data points, right?
Okay.
So if you and I just meet, we only have one data point, that one thing and that one interaction to make judgments off of and take actions off of. But if we've been around each other significantly, if we've had major conversations, if we've had multiple interactions, that's why they call it a body of work. You've got this whole body of work to compare. That's why reputations are so important. This is how all of this ties together. And people, I think, they many times make it very complex. There's not any one thing that all of a sudden you go, I'm going to do business with this person, or I'm not going to do business with this person. See, if your experience with a previous coach is not a good one, then as soon as I say, when you ask me what I do, I said, well, one of the things I do is I coach. Oh, shit. I don't want anything to do with this clown. But it has nothing to do with me.
Right.
It has to do with the previous experience. I mean,
well, that's like the realtor, because of the one realtor who had
right.
such poor communication skills.
Right.
We judge all realtors almost by that.
Right.
It's not fair.
And life isn't fair. But that's where, again, when we raise awareness that when this comes top of mind, there will be a period of time when people see this, you yourself, me, and the people who see this for a period of time after seeing this session will keep this top of mind, and they will improve their communications. And then as it doesn't stay top of mind because something else will replace it, then all of a sudden their communications will go to a different level. Unless you make that conscious decision to, so as an example, it's funny because I just did it, but I swear very rarely. Now, at one point, I swore more. But I made a decision that if I was going to be a professional speaker, there was really no place for that. If you're looking at presentation, one of the things that I always ask is, what does that buy me? And does it buy me more than it costs me?
That's a big one.
Exactly. So there is, and we've had this conversation about one individual, and we're not going to mention his name again because we're not going to give him the pub, but he makes a living dropping F-bombs.
Yeah, but, and I think we mentioned this earlier before, or maybe I think I might have been talking about it when we were down in Austin, because he's often mentioned, obviously, in marketing circles.
Right.
And there are people that it's just absolutely a huge turnoff. And one of the guys in Austin was saying that, one, he does not like all the F-bombs. It makes him absolutely cringe. On the flip side, if somebody else comes on right after him and they'll try to, when he drops F-bombs, the crowd kind of cheers in its own little way because that's what they are expecting.
Right.
But if someone who's not used to dropping them tries to force it, thinking that they're going to get the same reaction from the stage, it just falls flat.
Exactly. And that's my point, is that I made a decision in my career that I was going to eliminate that. So that, for a couple of reasons, because I never wanted to say it from stage. I never wanted to say it in a public setting. And so, but if you say it casually, the chances are sometime publicly it's going to come out. And so let's take and eliminate it. Now, I'm not holier than thou. I'm not saying it for that reason. Everybody's got to make their own decisions. My point is, I want my communication, when people hear, the greatest compliment I get from my trainings is, wow, it made sense and I could put it into action immediately. Not that it was this complex equation of all these different things. It was what you said to me made a difference to me today. And that happens through simplicity. And Einstein even said that anybody can make things complicated. It's the true genius that can simplify the complicated so that everybody can use it.
Yeah.
So the point is, again, that's why if the numbers on this study are even modified a little bit, it's that part's not it's the think of 7% being the words, 38% being the tonality. That's the inflection and how we make the words dance. 55% is the physiology, is the physical nature. It's the gesturing. It's the expressions. It's the smile. You know, I have so much fun doing this with you, Jena. It's just, gosh, every day I just look forward to this.
So I put up a link, and that link is one of the tools we just purchased to utilize a sales tactic we're already doing. It already works really well for us, but it makes it really easy to add videos directly to pretty much anything that you're doing digitally, and gives you the ability to track and creates an instant landing page that doesn't require any coding or website skills or any of that. Nice. With a $40, that particular link saves like $40 because it's my tracking one. But we utilize it with one of Archie's programs, and the sales technique to use video is definitely slower. Like, I'm not gonna, no holds about it. This isn't gonna be where you can blast 1 million people. We do it actually in groups of 100, which seems like a lot until you can put it on a Model T assembly line, essentially, right? And start doing all things at the same time and moving all 100 forward. But what it enables you to do is record a really quick custom sales video. You just take your phone, you can put the app on your phone, you can use it from your computer. I could do it right here. And be like, hey, Scott, you know, this is Jena. I was just looking up your company online. Actually, let's say a restaurant, because this actually happened yesterday. Yesterday, I went online to get some restaurant referrals from the moms in the private moms group. Yours came up, but when I was on your Facebook page, I noticed you didn't have any menu, any information, no hours, hardly any images, and basically, I didn't know anything about you to even consider you. So I thought I'd just come back and see if you'd want to sit down for a free Facebook audit, and we'll go through all your stuff and give you some data points of things that you can change to make a huge difference in your business today. And maybe if you like us, maybe we can work together. You know,
that's
push
awesome.
the button below and you'll get my schedule and we can get started today. I can fire that off and see how fast that was. It literally, I was watching the clock. It took me just over a minute to record.
Yep.
What it does all the hosting for you. It does all that hard stuff. Like, trust me, hard stuff, because when I did this, where we recorded it with a camera, we uploaded it to the computer, we put it into iMovie, we edited and squished pieces together, you know, added all this other stuff, and then we have to go send it to the website designer. So I send the video off to be edited by the video guy, and then to the website person and the image person, they've got to go collect logos and do this and do that and put a landing page together that's custom to this person. It has the right call to action button, everything works, and it's integrated with the email system. Or this company, I was like, how much is it? And you're just like, let's go. Let's just hit PayPal, you hit the credit card, and just move. So I think that ties in really well to what you're saying, is because in sales, there's so much lost if we're just sending, especially when we're talking about cold outreach, which I think that's what people are flagging it. We're not going to drop F-bombs, we'll say flagging it. That you've tried to do everything else that everyone has told you, but you haven't talked to someone about hardcore sales.
Right.
How do you reach out to an absolutely cold as ice audience and warm their heart? And I will tell you, an actual custom video will do the trick. it's
Yeah,
actually working.
because you see all three, you hear the words, you hear the inflection, you get to see whether they're excited about it. You get to see the physiology, you get to see the professionalism of maybe having a step and repeat behind you or whatever, right? You, in other words, there's an image that is projected. We're communicating messages constantly, right? I mean, it's 100% of the time we're communicating. People are looking at you. As soon as they can see you, they have an idea. So again, that's why at speaking events, my speaking mentor, be the first one there and the last one to leave.
I
Why?
love that
Because
one.
because you got to spend time with people. They got to see you in action. They can see themselves now working with you. It's an end result, right? And so that's where, again, this communication physiology, you are your greatest message. And so if you're frumpy all the time, nobody wants to do business with frumpy. Nobody. Not even frumpy wants to do business with frumpy. They want to do business with somebody that can add some spark to their life, to their business, to their whatever. So again, that's where, when Zig Ziglar said, it's attitude, not aptitude, that determines your altitude. So, when your attitude is good about this and you when you know all these things about communication and you know that you're always communicating a message, that it's really
Yeah.
important that, does your hair have to be perfectly coiffed all the time? No, but have it fairly consistent, right? And have your look fairly consistent. And that's why Sean, I mean, we had this conversation yesterday. We were in meetings with a couple, some pretty high level clients and or vendors, and Sean had his Sean shirt and his Sean shoes, that's
Sean.
that's Sean. That's his brand. That's how he shows up. That's who he
Hey,
is. Yeah, no, and it's awesome. And it's funny because there are times where, I mean, I might wear something quasi similar, and it's like, what are you trying to do? Be Sean? No, I'm not trying to be Sean. So I actually, when I know we're going to be together, I make sure I don't, because that's Sean, and that's awesome. So you get that all the time. That's what communication is that that's where we go back to. It's not any one thing. It's a combination of all these little things. And while all these little things will enhance your ability, but they can also destroy your ability to do business. Not just break, but destroy. If you, I mean, look at, and it's just, I coach intuitively, so it's what popped up. Look what happened to a Kansas City running back when a video came out about an action he took towards a girlfriend.
Is this the one where you like kicked her?
Yeah. Right? Boom, one action. And I'm sure it's not the only time it's happened, and I'm not that the reason for bringing it was just the example that popped to mind. Is it doesn't take much. We're in a world where people are working, unfortunately, to make really fast decisions. And the vast majority of decisions are not, I don't think that people are working to make fast decisions to the positive. I think right now what's happening is there are a lot of people working to make fast decisions to the negative. I think there's more of that than there is of the other. And so if you know that's why one of the things that I taught in a training I did not long ago is live your life as if you're on camera 100% of the time.
That was something my dad taught me. I remember he was military from a military dad, so that was like fairly normal. And of course, as a naive young teenager, you're like, why should I have to do that?
Yeah, how'd that work for you?
It's just one thing. He's like, you don't understand it, but
Yeah.
one day you will. And he was trying to explain the concept of, what was it? I think integrity, doing the right thing even when nobody's watching, which is a very big military thing to do, right?
Right.
And that's hard to explain to a teenager. And he's like, you never know when that stuff's going to come out. You never know that when you're going to have to stand tall by it. And so it really does make a huge difference. So, and I will honestly say I've been blackmailed before, and I just kind of looked at the person. I was like, have fun with that.
Yeah.
You go try to tell anybody anything you want, and my decisions in front of the camera, outside of the camera, they speak for themselves.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is it's your body of work. It's the consistency and the congruence and all that. So again, you know, um, I've had a he's now a really great friend, but he literally avoided me for 4 years, not because of me, because I did something in behalf of somebody else, and his um, he swore I'll never do business with that person.
Oh wow.
But because he saw me do business with that person, he thought he equated that same thing transferred to me until we finally sat down one day in coffee, and he goes, "Oh my God, you're 180 degrees from that." And I said, "Well, yeah. What would ever make you think well, just the fact that, well, see, I can separate the two, but because of that, or that was part of, I don't necessarily do things with that person or organization anymore either, because I don't want that tied to me. Why would you? See, once you don't know what it's really funny because I've been doing the 24 days of Christmas tips. And
Uh-huh.
part of yesterday's tip was I said, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. And I say that a lot, obviously. I mean, you've heard me say it a lot.
Uh-huh.
And one of the comments was, that was such a great reminder. I don't know what I don't know. You're right. I never thought of it. And so, but you don't know what you don't know until you know it. But the other part of that is once you know it, you can never unlearn it.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse. And so once you know more, but that's another statement that I share a lot. Once you've done the best you could with what you've known to this point. Now you know more. Now you can do better. You didn't know what you didn't know. Now you know. So now, because you know more, you can do better. It's okay. Don't be so hard on yourself. It's hard to do something you don't know anything about.
Yep.
But as soon as you know it, now you can make other decisions. And so again, that's
So
why all of this ties together.
I will say this. What are the 3 biggest takeaways that you think came out of this? That if you could have the people learn or remember 3 things to never forget, what would they be?
Well, that there are definite portions of the communication model that are split between the words, the tone, and the physiology. So understand that communication is more than just words.
Okay.
Right? Communication is complex. The other thing is that it's not in business or in life. It's not any one thing that makes or breaks you.
I like that one too. It's definitely the collection, right?
Yeah. And I think the last thing is really, and it came out last, but I think it's you've done the best you could with what you've known to this time. Now you know more. Now you can do better. So really, it's now you can do better by attending these on a regular basis, by reviewing these times. You can know more and you can do better.
That's probably a lot of education right there. And it's sad that so many of us decide to stop educating ourselves after we get out of high school.
there's a statistic that says 68% of people never read a book after high school.
Do you know what the average number of books read in America is per person?
No, it's negligible.
Negative. It's not even one.
Yeah.
Not even one book on
Yeah.
average for all Americans.
And that's the part that is really unfortunate, because there's a lot of great wisdom if you would just open yourself up to the potential wisdom. I didn't say accept everything you hear. I
No.
said open yourself up to the possibility. Then you hear it, consider it, keep what you like, cast off what you don't.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to wrap this up because we are at 10:10.
It's a great
Here
number.
with Double Funnel TV. And if y'all haven't caught on the last, I think we've done this now 3 weeks. On Fridays, if there is something in sales specifically that you would like help with, you can still go to doublefunnel.tv and let us know what your specific situation is or what your specific questions, or even drop them in the comments below, and I'll have Scott or myself get to those. If it's a sales question, I'm just going to pass it over that way to Scott, and marketing questions I'll handle. And if you would like I said, if you want help, just go over there, input the fields. It's absolutely free. We do this every single morning, Monday through Friday. So I want to tell you thank you, Scott, because that is a lot of great sales information. I know it's a lot to put together, and it's going to get harder every single Friday when you have to come up with more material.
Nah, I've been doing this for like 6 years. Oh, wait, no, maybe it's more than that.
No one needs to know. All right, guys, y'all have a great Friday, and we will see you back here on Monday.
See ya. Bye.
Bye, guys.